So, going to do another one on how low can you go. Now, you may have a relative, friend, or be able to cut a deal with a farmer to have an actual piece of land that you can be on. And you may say, well, I can't afford a van because I don't have that sort of money. You know, I can live on this land just by, you know, working sort of thing, and we've got, you know, so many hours of work for my rent deal going on. But look, I can't afford an RV. You know, all the ones that were reasonable have already been grabbed. I can't get a van. I basically can't get barely anything. But there's another option, and it still may not be super duper easy to get this, but it'll be easy to get it over an RV or a drivable van, and that is not drivable station wagons. There's some that, you know, I know people want this stuff for scrap metal, and, you know, a lot of old cars disappear rather quickly because of, you know, the scrap metal. So I'm told in the States. But, you know, there's some people who just hang on to this stuff, particularly old men, and some of the ones they hang on to are worse than most of the ones going to scrap metal. But if you can get your hands on an old station wagon, and over here, because we're not so crazy on getting everything to scrap metal, that sort of is quite easily doable. You know, there's some people who expect bugger all money. There's a lot of people, especially if there's been a death in the family of a male, and you talking to the female, she doesn't want cars, she doesn't like cars, she doesn't know anything about them, and especially if it's one that she knows a bit about them, but that one there is just a shell. There's no engine in it, there's no transmission in it, there's nothing worth having in it. You may very easily be given it. And, you know, and that, when you fold down the back seat or rip the damn seats out and chuck them away, you know, is a good option to be able to live in, because Aboriginals here do sleep in them. Now there's another thing I've got down here. This stuff. We call it sarking insulation. The average Joe on the street knows it as silver paper, because it's effectively paper. This is an older one. Now we get like plastic hessian bag material with it. But, you know, some of them there's different things with it. There's little, like tiny little thin lines of fiberglass in there. And this isn't thick, I mean, this is thin as. It's literally, you know, like a piece of blooming aluminium foil. Blue on one side. Now you can get this stuff and they'll put whatever colour you want and whatever logo you want on this side. But that's just a bit of leftover stuff from your grandfather. Now that stuff, you put the blue side to the roof of the vehicle and the silver side to you. The effect in summer is brilliant. I mean, it's $1 a metre here. Over in the States, you probably get it for, you know, 30 cents a metre, 50 cents a metre, something like that, by 1.2 metres wide. You know, it's worth diddly squat. If you go to houses that were never finished during the building boom, ones that basically got to the framing stage but they never got the cladding in on the outside, never done anything with the inside, often enough you may find that stuff is stuck on the outside and it's literally just stapled on, and you can walk along and just and pull the staples off and you got something. Nobody's going to care what you do to these houses that are just abandoned. You know, they're just... But you'll only get it easily because what it is when they do it here, they get your 4x2 framing and that, and they put it on the outside and then they put the cladding over the top of it. So it's easy to get off a house that hasn't been clad. Furthermore, if there is any new building sites, if they are actually building anything new in America still, you might want to put your hand in the lucky dip of the dumpster there if they haven't locked it, and you'll find scraps of it. But that isn't the best way. But another one is if you know a building's being demolished, not by just full on hit it with an excavator, but you know, somebody's may want to transport part of the building, or somebody else is doing it, you know, by hand or whatever. Just see if you can't get it off of them, because it's not worth anything new and second hand. Like, they'll probably just give it to you, you know, or they may ask that you help them pull the cladding off and then give you the silver paper under the cladding. Fingers crossed they've got it under there. But that stuff there is very, very common. There's barely an inch in my flaming laundry which isn't covered with it, except where the clear sheets are. But yeah, that's a great one. The other one is normal insulation actual bats. Now they can be pretty good as well, but they're not as cheap. But once again, you know, if there's an abandoned house, you can ransack them out of the house. And the easiest way to get to them, they put them like after the silver paper, and you can easily get to them with the inner side. And if you can get the plaster to peel off, you may find there's heaps of them in there. But that does limit your space that you get, because you know they're like that thick. Now, if you manage to have that silver paper and get like a sheet of plaster or something on the roof of, you know, a station wagon without an engine, or you know, even better still, if you can get a van, an old Bedford, we've got a few of those, sort of, well, one of my mates had one over here, even an old van without an engine, that's even better, because you get a chance where you can sort of almost, not stand, but you can get in and out easier. But, you know, if you do get a layer of plaster or whatever, the other one is vermiculite. Now, you got to buy that new, but and it's loose fill, and you can just sort of basically just shovel it in. You don't pack it in tight. You never ever pack any insulation in tight. But you can just get this stuff and sort of, well, just push it in with a ruler basically, and just keep packing it in that way. But it is absolutely brilliant as insulation. It's great stuff. It also absorbs water too. So if you've got one little bit of a leak, or just a little tiny bit that's a little bit funny, it can absorb it, and then in the summer it's liable that it will actually release it in the form of steam during the hot days. I have been told that LED lights are not terribly good with heat, so you may want to watch the idea of sticking an LED light on the ceiling of said station wagon. But you know, and the other thing is, if you're going to do anything with blooming wood stoves or whatever in it, you know, keep an idea about the flammables. If there's bitumen on the floor, if we rip up the carpet in the cars here, there's bitumen stuck on the floor pan, and then there's the floor pan. So you want to be careful about that. You want to be careful about the carpet that lights up. You want to be careful about any upholstery at all that'll have a chance to light up. But the biggest thing that's so easy that you should do, that's so easy to miss but can be so dangerous, is take the damn fuel tank out of it. So many of these vehicles, they rip the engines and all that, and the fuel tank's still in them. So you may want to think about taking that out. A lot of them, it's just a few bolts on a few straps, and literally, if you can't get the bolts undone, you can usually cut the straps with just a little hacksaw or something like that. With some of the good models, well, a lot of them now, I've seen it on a Volvo, they've got all the pipes and the inputs and the re-feedbacks and everything, and they've got like this giant cap thing. And all you got to do to change the fuel tank is just undo that cap and then take the straps off. and there's no sort of pipes permanently hooked to it. You just got to undo that massive cap. By the way, that Volvo that I worked on, it was about an 85 model. By cross, I've never seen a car so easy to work on in all my life. It was just so simple and straightforward and well thought out, well designed. Not that that means anything. So there many flipping lights in the interior, it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's one that we do over here, or the Aboriginals do here. Do be aware that putting an LED light on the ceiling may cause it to overheat and not run properly because they don't like heat. And another thing is the US station wagons are way bigger than ours, by far. But you know, that is an option. You can't stand up, but at least you got somewhere warm and dry to sleep. And you know, fingers crossed you got it for nothing or next to nothing. You wouldn't have to outlay any more than, you know, $50 to be able to buy it off a woman who doesn't know what she's looking at in scrap metal value or whatever. Yeah, wreckers, whatnot, but a lot of wreckers and people involved in cars, they know how much it's worth in scrap metal, and they take it there themselves. No point even going to a scrap metal bloke because, you know, he's going to make you pay whatever it's worth in scrap metal. And over here, it's about $120 a tonne, I think. Something like that. Keeps changing all the time. Anyway, that's another one on How Low Can You Go.